Thank you for joining us again this week on the Daily Balance Podcast. We're your hosts, Adean.
And I'm Brittany, and this is where we're turning awareness into action. I'm excited to share a truly special conversation with you today.
You know, autism has been in the news so much recently, and so much of it is confusion
Ooh.
and unreliable. And if you're a parent, a caregiver, or anyone who loves someone on the autism spectrum, you know that this journey can sometimes feel isolating. It's a path full of unique challenges, but also incredible triumphs and moments of deep connection. For the next few episodes, we're diving into the autism world by breaking down the science behind therapies such as ABA and finding out what current research tells us. We're discussing the financial and emotional toll on parents and what resources are available to them right now. And we're uncovering the common misconceptions surrounding the spectrum and promoting true understanding and inclusion.
Mm. Before we dive into the community, let's acknowledge the scope of this journey. The recent CDC data tells us that nationally, 1 in 31 children are diagnosed with autism. That means in every classroom, every neighborhood, this journey is a daily reality for thousands of families.
You know, the daily balance is constantly challenged by isolation.
Mm.
One major study found that nearly 40% of parents raising a child with autism report isolating themselves from friends and family. This isn't just about finding therapy, it's about breaking down that isolation and finding your safe space.
Beyond the emotional toll, there's a tremendous financial one as well. The increased lifetime cost of medical care and therapy for a child with autism can be as high as $1.4 million. This statistic drives home the immense practical and financial pressure on families, which is precisely why organizations like the Autism Strong Foundation and access to key resources are so non negotiable.
That's why this episode is all about hope, support, and finding your community. Today, we dive into the heart of what the Autism Strong Foundation does best, connecting families and ensuring no one feels alone. We're talking about the power of shared experience, the essential resources that bring real change, and the beautiful, growing community that is truly Autism Strong.
You're not just listening to an interview, you're stepping into a community. So get ready to feel uplifted, informed, and connected. This is the Daily Balance Podcast, and we're giving hope and community to families on the spectrum. And it starts right now.
Our special guests today are Stephanie Neuman, who went from being an award winning fundraiser to being crowned 2014 Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Woman of the Year, and working background with American Diabetes Association and Epilepsy Foundation of Western Ohio. Stephanie brings nearly 2 decades of nonprofit sector expertise and passion as executive director of Autism Strong Foundation.
And we have Kelby Feenaughty, who is the program manager for the Autism Strong Foundation, where she leads family focused, inclusive initiatives, including Landon's Hope Grant and Connect Strong Conference, a conference for caregivers. As an autism mom, Kelby blends the lived experience with her passion to help people build programs that empower, support, and uplift families in the autism community.
We're discussing the heart of their mission, ensuring no family walks this path alone. Their goal is to replace isolation and confusion with connection, hope, and real world resources that make a difference in the daily lives of those affected by autism. Welcome to our show, ladies. So glad to have you here with us this morning.
We are so glad to have you here with us today to chat a bit about Autism Strong Foundation. Today, we're going to tackle the most important questions for finding support.
Stephanie, every great organization starts with a deeply personal why. So, can you share with us the premise of the central philosophy that led to the creation of Autism Strong Foundation and maybe what gap in the community you were specifically trying to fill?
Yeah, so Autism Strong Foundation started out of a desire from a mother and father, Becky and Rudy Toms, who have a son, Landon. Landon is, when he was diagnosed autism spectrum disorder. Now, with the different labeling, it would be considered level three. He's nonverbal, and at the time, they were really just wanting to expose their CrossFit community to what their life looked like with being a parent to a special needs child, specifically one with severe autism. And so they created this workout for everybody to come together. It was called AMRAP for Autism, Hope for Landon. And it was a really great event. And they raised some dollars and they gave that away to an organization that does really great things for the autism community. And they saw some traction. People asked, "Are you going to do this again next year?" So they did it again. And they did it again. And after a couple of years, they really were feeling called to understand what those dollars were specifically being used for. And the core mission of the Tom's family and what they were personally struggling with and what led to kind of our mission statement and what we do on the daily is, one, they wanted to see any dollars get poured right back into their local community. So seeing the
Yeah.
impact immediately with families who need it now. So while research is amazing, advocacy is amazing, those can be some longer term things that takes time to make action
Right.
happen, versus how
Right.
can we impact families right now, today. And
Oh.
what stemmed from that was being a financial aid resource foundation. And we do
Yeah.
that based on their initial struggles with getting their therapy services covered by insurance, that they fought with insurance for a year plus to get Landon's
Yeah.
therapy, ABA, applied behavioral um, analysis therapy, covered by insurance. And while the insurance, this was well over a decade ago, so while insurance has come around, it can still be very
Yeah.
cost prohibitive for families to be able to afford those therapy services. So we are able to fulfill their vision and mission by impacting local Greater Charlotte region families in a couple of other pockets in the Carolinas that we support currently, by providing grants that allow families to remove some of that financial burden of
Mhm.
paying for therapy services or co-pays or whatever their insurance is going to be. Because when you've got a child on the spectrum, you're most likely maxing out your out of pocket maximums,
Mhm.
if you know anything about insurance. And
Oh, absolutely.
depending on what
Absolutely.
lovely plan you're on, those numbers can be, in the five figures. And we are very,
Right.
very frequently seeing families whose financial responsibility is well into the five figures to be able to get their
Oh, yes.
children the support that they need.
Okay.
Well, Kelby, what are the key programs and resources that Autism Strong provides right now to combat family burnout and isolation?
We actually just concluded our largest grant of the season called Landon's Hope Grant. It's what Stephanie just expressed was it's like our legacy grant. It was built on hope for Landon and being able to provide financial support for families specific for therapy costs. We support traditional therapies such as ABA, OT, PT, speech, all the gamut that you usually see in the autism community. But the cool thing about Autism Strong is that we also understand there's some alternative side of the therapies that we need to be able to support as well. So
Mhm.
examples are swim therapy. My son is one of those that's in some swim therapy now. And we got to chat a little bit before our recording. And
Mhm.
I'm a passionate advocate and autism mom for swim therapy. And I love that I work for an employer and a foundation that also supports that passion for it as
Yes.
well, to be able to see outside of the box, see the needs of the families, address them, and support them financially with that. So swim therapy, in my opinion, is one of those that's an immediate life-saving therapy. versus some of
Absolutely.
the traditionals are more long-standing supportive therapies. And so I'm very grateful for a grant like that to be able to offer to our community. We also are in the thick of holiday season right now, and we support one of our other larger grants is called our Angels for Autism. And we support the full family unit rather than just the autistic individual. We come along the families, we understand what their wish lists are, what their needs are. We send them boxes full of essential items such as cleaning products, sheets for their bedding, air purifiers during sick season, things to help support them in the home. And that's something that I got to be a part of last year for the first time, kind of entering in as a teammate on the Autism Strong Foundation team. And it was eye-opening to the need out there. But what was really cool and also eye-opening is that there is a large network of advocates that want to help. And
Right.
so being able to see the need and also the support and the help come together and provide these
Yes.
families with full family Christmas or just holiday relief for them has been amazing. Something very cool that we're also being able to do this year to support families is it's kind of like a branch to our Angels for Autism program is understanding the need of our communities with SNAP benefits being on pause right now, and really just the chaos that instills within our community, because there is a large part of our demographic that we support that is on some type of government assistance or assistance in some capacity. And so we came together as a team, figured out a way to address that, and we are going to be able to support additional families with food relief. So they may not get the full support with our Angels program with the gifts and the essential items, but at least we can come alongside them and make sure that they are fed for the holiday season. They can have a holiday meal on whatever day they choose to eat that meal. But we're excited to be able to do that. And that's the great thing about our foundation is that we can kind of identify and then pivot and to be able to help the community in need. Those are those two that I would love to highlight right now. We have plenty that run throughout the year. I could talk for ages on those, but those are the two that I would say right now where we're hitting the ground running and making sure that with our Landon's Hope grant and our Angels for Autism grant, we're able to support our community this holiday season.
That's excellent. And we're definitely going to put those links in our show at the end so that people can find that information from your organization. So that's excellent. So we're going to talk about defining the financial barrier. Kelby, what is the most crucial and critical high cost need for children on the autism spectrum that families universally struggle to afford, even with insurance or government programs?
I'd say it's some of those things that we can identify the ones that are your typical ones, like those out-of-pocket maximums. My family has an $8,000 out-of-pocket maximum, and while I'm extremely grateful for my husband's job and our private insurance, it also is a high lift.
Mhm.
And so we were able to, before I even came onto the team, apply for Landon's Hope grant last year and receive some support this year, which was a huge weight lifted off of our shoulders. And so there's those typical things that you see where there's those gaps in insurances, but something as an autism mom, and I'm sure you can see too, I feel more passionate about the AAC device that goes out, or he has some type of meltdown, or it gets put in a body of water, because my kiddo loves water. We've gone through,
Uh-huh.
he's 6 years old. He's been using an augmentative assistant device for 4 years now, and we've gone through 4 iPads, and those are not the cheapest things.
No.
True.
But then
True.
just I've got a picky eater. He's very picky. And so we were just talking about, food relief and SNAP benefits. And there's some things that he just does not eat and will not eat, even in
Right.
crisis mode. If he was, just hungry, he's not going to eat it. And
Mhm.
so that's a high cost. And if you are a parent, you understand fruit is extremely
Absolutely.
expensive. um, I have boys, and they eat me out of house and home. But
Talk about
yes,
it.
it's some of those things that you don't think of that are in a what I would say, like a traditional family setting, they don't have to think of those things. Whereas our family and our communities, that's why our team has to think outside of the box, because it's truly a case by case basis on a need and a financial need. So we like to hear the needs from our families and then be able to address them from there. And those are some of the things that I see a lot of, as well as just like those socioeconomic barriers of just making sure they're fed, or they can get gas to and from therapy. They can get their power bill turned back on so that they can have heat and lighting. We have a grant, one of those other ones that I can speak on, called our emergency grant. And it does fund things just like that. So if someone needs to be able to get back and forth and needs gas for the week, we can help support them with that. If they needed to be able to pay their rent for the month, we can help support them with that. So it's a costly life, but again, I just like to say there are foundations like ours, and then there's just people that the money is there if you just ask for it. And know how to
Excellent.
ask for it.
I like that. Well, Stephanie, can you share a story, obviously without identifying details, that truly illustrates the emotional and developmental toll a child when they are repeatedly denied access to essential therapy due to cost?
One of the stories that comes to mind was probably our story of hope from this year that we shared at our annual gala. This is a child who was nonverbal, and parents were not quite sure what to do, who to turn to, felt hopeless. And I had a conversation with them, and it was really going to be cost prohibitive for them to do any type of therapy and jump into what that would look like for them. And then on top of that, they met with a couple of different providers and did not get a warm, fuzzy feeling that this was a good fit for them and their child. So there's so much complexity to these children and to their needs that it can be really super difficult to navigate, especially if you're just being dumped into a diagnosis and then you have no idea where to go to next. And so thankfully the mom stumbled upon us and ended up in my inbox, and I ended up on a very, very lovely phone call with her, and basically just asked some very qualifying questions to understand what their needs were, making sure that I understood what the child's needs were, what they were looking for, what they would be comfortable with. And I suggested one of our therapy partners that I thought would be good for her to just try out. No pressure. Go in, do a visit and see if it's going to work for you. And they ended up going through with that, applying for an emergency grant so that they could start therapy immediately once they got accepted into that program. And this is a child who was non-speaking, and after 6 weeks of prepared and strategic therapy through the provider, once we got them up and running, he was able to say some of his first words and is now thriving.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love these success stories. That's beautiful. So Kelby, when a family is facing the choice between basic living expenses and necessary treatment, how does that financial strain affect the entire household dynamic?
It is, as you can only imagine, the parents just automatically face guilt and burnout and anxiety, just trying to decide between getting groceries or therapy sessions for that month. What does that look like? Do they need to cut back on therapy so that they can be able to they can be able to afford it? There's also the marital strain and the isolation that comes along with it. My husband and I have gone through the gamut of emotions on this journey, and we have more to go for the years to come. But it's something that is, if the parents feel that way, I think there's a saying that I kind of live by, where it's like a mother is only as happy as her saddest child. And with my son needing the most needs in the home, I'm only as calm and collected as my special needs child is. So when he's a little dysregulated, yes. when he's dysregulated, I then have to then control my own emotions and make sure
Yes.
that he can co-regulate off of me. And when there's a financial burden within the home, it's harder for me to do that, or a parent to do that of a special needs child, to be able to provide the co-regulation needed when their own nervous system is trying to figure out how to afford things.
Right.
So it's an intertwined mess at times, but that's why we hope to be able to support them financially so that we can uplift some of that, where they can be able to co-regulate with their kiddo when needed and support the full family unit within the home.
Yeah, we noticed that a lot of people think of this as, well, if you couldn't afford the child, you shouldn't have had it. No one can prepare for some of these dynamics that come
Right.
along with having children. It's not simply being afford to have the child. Then you look at the therapies. Now you're looking at the cost of feeding them based on their diets and
Sure.
specifications. These are things that you cannot prepare for as a parent. And less judgment and more understanding would be crucial in these aspects.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So, Kelby, beyond therapy and equipment, what are some of the hidden costs of raising a child with autism that your foundation helps to alleviate? For example, specialized childcare, diagnostic fees, and safety modifications.
Yeah, so diagnostic fees is a great one to touch on. We, as part of our emergency grant, we have a grant that we can help support with those diagnostic things. Specifically in South Carolina and in North Carolina, with those service areas that we support in, the average wait time for a diagnostic assessment for autism is roughly 12 to 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then even to get into therapy after that, depending on the therapy type, it can be another wait list of 12 to 18 months. I recently moved back into South Carolina 2 years ago, and we just got my son off a wait list for speech
Okay.
3 months ago.
Wow.
And so it's a cost there that you're trying to then, there's a opportunity sometimes to pay private so that you don't have to go through these long wait lists. And that's a huge uplift. But we have a collaboration with clinical psychologists that we can help support them and get turnaround and assessment within typically 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, but we can usually turn an assessment around very quickly and then help support them, get them into the right hands with our therapy partners to hopefully not sit on an 18-month wait list for ABA or speech. We try to offer kind of like a filtering service through me mainly of, okay, where's our wait list at with all these therapy partners coming in, so that I can then tell the community about it. But diagnostic testing is very expensive if you're not going through traditional insurance, trying to wait on those wait lists. You mentioned another one, specialized childcare. We can't just let anybody watch our child, right?
No.
They have to be eligible
Approved.
and
Yes.
qualified and the right servant's heart, and it has to be the
Not
right
even
person.
family.
And
Yes.
Not even
exactly.
family. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And sometimes that comes with a heavy cost. If
Yeah.
you want to do a date night, there's not just, finding a babysitter. It has to be finding the babysitter
Right.
to
Yeah.
be able to watch your child appropriately. And so that can be a cost. And you have to not only have date night costs, but you have to incorporate the costs of specialized care as well.
Yeah.
And then I like to joke about my home being like Fort Knox, but something people don't think about is just the safety within your home and the
Yes.
cost that goes along with that. I've got locks on the refrigerators, the cabinets, I've got 6-foot locks on every door to the outside
Yes.
and inside. We've got high security cameras so that we can know where he's at all times.
Because we
You're
have
communicating.
numbers.
Exactly. Exactly. There's just specialized safety equipment within the home that, you put a autism label on it and it costs $10 extra for some reason. I don't
Oh,
know why they do that, but
Mm-hmm.
it's upsetting to us parents, but it is what it is. We have to do it. But those
Yeah.
are some high costs as well that you don't tend to think about.
Right.
And then, like one I mentioned before, is just replacement of those talking. We call it my son's talker device. So we've replaced an iPad 4 times. So you can imagine the
We
cost on
need one
that.
right
right
now.
now.
We need two right now because the other one is broke both of them. But We
Yep.
certainly got that. And then we also understand the Mission Impossible household where you have
Yes.
the locks
For
and
here
you
to
know,
get
and
over
this to get in
that.
here you have to operate. And you know, my doors have combination locks, and
Hmm.
so it's a whole lot entailed in that.
Yes.
Oh,
So
yes.
we're going to get into the mechanics of the financial action. So, Stephanie, our listeners connect with a goal of moving from awareness into action, which is our tagline. So, when a family receives a scholarship from you, how quickly do you all turn that around and translate it into an immediate, real world action, like starting a specific therapy or acquiring a piece of equipment? How quickly can you turn that around?
Well, I've done it in less than, 10 minutes before, but um,
Yes.
I've seen it.
if it's we have had families where they're in dire need and they need something immediately, and if there's a way for me to electronically pay a bill, send money, not to the family but like send a food gift card, be able to pay their rent online, do things like that. The beautiful thing about being a small organization, and by small, I mean team size. We are small. Our funding is large,
Right, right.
which I really love.
That's
But
amazing.
we run extremely lean, which Kelby probably doesn't love because she, like me and Kelby, are half of our team, right? We've got two other staff.
Hey,
They are not full.
we get
They are not full time. But so we can work fast. It goes back to what Kelby was talking about earlier about being able to be flexible and pivot. Uh, but
Mhm.
on average, if you're putting in an application, we ask for the grace of giving us about 10 to 14 days for us to review all the information. And this is if you have a complete, like you've provided us everything that we actually asked for. Anything that's going to slow down the process is going to be if you're not providing the information that we're requesting. And so it might be a little bit of back and forth to say, oh, this is actually what I need. Can you provide this instead? But once we have the information, if it's an emergency grant, we implement immediately as once we've approved the grant. Our Landon's Hope grant, which is our annual therapy scholarship, that is something where they apply in the fall with our open enrollment, but those checks go out to their therapy centers in January. So they're not receiving a bill once services start for the year that they've been awarded the grant for, right? So we all know the big heavy load comes in January, right after the holidays, and you're starting on your new insurance plan, your new minimums and deductibles are all implemented. So they start with a really nice balance on their account that then the therapy center starts billing against until it runs out. So hopefully they're not seeing bills. Our goal is to fund as many families as possible at 100%, but the lowest we go down to is really like a 70 for Landon's Hope is like a 70% coverage rate. So if you can imagine being able to know that 70 to 100% of your out of pocket is going to be covered,
that's amazing. Amazing.
That's life changing.
That is, and it's so comforting and reassuring to these people who are listening that may be experiencing these, the diagnosis, and that alone, when in itself, is overwhelming when you get that, and it's just like, where do I go right now? And I need the help. So that's amazing that your turnaround is that quick. It's amazing that they have that there's a resource out there that people can turn to and know that, hey, we're on it. That's excellent. So, Stephanie, how do you ensure that the financial assistance that you all provide result in long-term therapeutic consistency for the child rather than just like a temporary interruption of that financial struggle?
So one of the things that we are not in the business for is putting band-aids. We've created our board of directors and I have really created what we feel like is looking at a holistic approach with the child, with the family unit to ensure that consistency. We know when consistency doesn't happen, it's actually extremely disruptive to the child and their progress. And so that Landon's Hope grant really is about creating consistency. We're trying to give you an entire year of therapy coverage so that there isn't a disruption in services. The great thing about it is if you graduate or discharge, like we find out and we celebrate with the families because we're so excited. And we find out because maybe we get a little bit of a refund back from the scholarship payment that we provided out to the therapy center to cover their services. But also it's that ability to be able to come alongside them and make sure that they're getting the different services that they need. And it's not going to be something that they're concerned about, or is going to only cover a small amount. And it's why we have chosen not to dabble into the gray area of like private schooling, because we look at that as a band-aid. Like we can not, and I mean this from this way, not that if you can afford private schooling, that's great. What it would be for us is it's such a high cost to do something like that we might only be able to provide that for a one-time thing. And for us, that seems more disruptive to the child, right? So and then putting them into that situation, knowing the family wouldn't be able to sustain that financial need without us, it seems too band-aidish. So we're really looking at what we're doing as we want to make sure that we're able to invest in you and your child and create that consistency with the services that they need. And we know what we're being able to provide is something that you can continue to apply for until it's not needed. And that's one of the things I do think differentiates. A lot of our Landon's Hope families have been with us for multiple years. They're receiving grants year after year after year to ensure that there isn't a disruption to those services.
Oh, I love that. The consistency. That is so important, specifically with autism. So, Kelby, what is the process the foundation uses to vet providers and ensure the funds are going to high quality evidence-based treatment and equipment?
I'd say there's two different pipelines that we are able to verify that. As soon as I can identify a new therapy partner or just a therapy partner wants to interact with us as a sponsor or a vendor at one of our locations, I meet with them. So usually once or twice a week, I have something on my schedule where I'm meeting with a new therapy partner. I'm understanding what their availability is, what their business model is, in home, in clinic, hybrid, what's their wait list. I have a gamut of questions that I run them through and able to kind of understand their need. And then I have I call it my backdoor toolbox of resources where I can, if a family then comes to me and says like, I need this, I can pull a resource out of my toolbox and be able to, and let them know what that is. And then also we trust our parents. They're going through this process. They have identified a therapy partner that they are comfortable with their child. They're the expert in their child. We are not. We're just there to support them. And so if they have identified, the way our application process works is they've identified the therapy location. So we understand and trust that that's where they want their child to go. And then that's the process works from there. We have a therapy verification form that just lets us know that the therapy partner is also verifying the demographic information and the billing information. And that's also kind of an internal checks and balance system for us to know that they are who they are. But I'd say those are kind of our two main modes. Is I'm out in the community and our team is just out in the community understanding different various therapy partners that we interact with and our families do, and then also hearing it from our families and listening to them. Oh, this place is great, or we had an issue at this place, may not be the best fit for someone else. We're understanding of all of it.
Yeah,
excellent.
And I want to echo on that with really saying that we trust that our parents are the experts of their child. And we also listen very heavily to our local autism community. What Kelby is saying with, if there is repeated negative interactions with certain companies or certain locations or clinics or things like that, we want to know. And so we make a note of that so that if we are kind of ushering a new family through their diagnosis and their process, and they bring up that clinic, we can share privately that maybe have other suggestions for them to maybe explore, because our autism parents, they're in the throes of this every single day, and they're going to know if it's a good care team for in general or not. And we do that with respect and awareness that sometimes it's a one-off situation, but when we're getting repeated feedback on a very same similar pattern with a provider, then we're going to take that very seriously and make sure that we're not recommending that place out to our families.
I love that.
Excellent. So, Stephanie, in a typical year, what percentage of applications for assistance are you able to fulfill? And what's the biggest funding gap you face?
Yeah, so let me start with the biggest funding gap, and then I'll tell you about what we're able to fill. Our biggest funding gap is the creation of our emergency fund, which is where we pull dollars for those diagnosis fees, the emergencies of food, transportation, overdue bills, either even back pay on therapy, and or the start of somebody recently diagnosed who's starting therapy for the first time, and they have that first heavy lift, and it like autism doesn't happen on the calendar year. I don't know if you guys know that, right? So we get people throughout the year that are trying to engage and start therapy, but it's maybe in the middle of the year, and so it's going to be a big heavy lift on them because of their insurance information. So we're trying to do that. Our emergency fund is something that grew out of a need that I saw based on inquiries outside of our open enrollment time for Landon's Hope. And every year we've added more money to it, and it keeps getting depleted before the end of the year. So that's our biggest funding gap, is we know that there is a high need for around the clock or around the calendar care and financial support. And currently we aren't able to fund the need that is coming to us at 100%. And we would love to be even higher than that. We don't know, because we shut our applications. Once the money's gone, we're like, sorry guys, we're closed. And we're very honest with that. We're like, the funding is depleted. We'll see what comes or when it's going to reopen. And so with that, I don't know how many families are coming to our website or coming and finding our grant and being discouraged because they see that it is closed and they're unable to apply for it. So I can't give you an exact percentage of through that one what we're not funding. I will say with Landon's Hope, our annual scholarship grant that we really look at, as Kelby said, as our legacy grant that the foundation is built on, is something that we try, if you qualify, and by qualify, you have an autism diagnosis and you're receiving therapy services, and you've provided the documentation that we need to verify everything, is we try to give some portion of a grant to 100% of our applicants who qualify. We have, last year, I think, was the first year that we did not also do 100% of our applicants at 100%. So previous to that, that had been our standard. As we grow in the community, more people find out about us and more people are becoming autism aware, and especially Autism Strong Foundation aware. The demand is increasing monumentally. We've seen a tremendous increase in our Landon's Hope Scholarship applicants from last year to this year. And we're going through the very difficult process of, this is our budget for these grants. These are the families, and how are we going to be able to divide the funds? but we do try in some way to support every single family that applies
Amazing.
and share the love instead of doing a bunch to a few. We do try and do a lot to the many.
Spread it out. Got it. Love it. So we're going to talk a little bit about community partnership and a vision for Autism Strong. So these questions we're going to ask is going to give us a broader impact of the relationships with the autism community and the vision for the future, where cost is not a barrier.
So, Stephanie, in your experience, how does a nonprofit like yours complement the support offered by the government aid programs like Medicaid, SSI, and private insurance? Where is your organization most needed?
Yeah, so I feel like we're gap insurance, if you will. We really are. We're filling that gap. Whether they have private insurance or they have Medicaid, in some way we are picking up the pieces that the families are still struggling with. So that's the easiest way to explain it, and we do that through our different programs, and we find that our programs different, like if our Landon's Hope is really great for those on private insurance. If you're on Medicaid, you might be receiving or you're most likely receiving all of your therapy services, the standard ones, for free. But that goes back to what Kelby was saying earlier, where we actually look at providing alternative therapy grants as well through Landon's Hope. So if you're wanting to take your child to get equine therapy, so ride a horse because it's soothing to them, and you found a farm that does it, and there's several in our area that are amazing at it. Maybe we pick up the tab for that extracurricular for that family because they're already getting covered on other things. Or our holiday program, the food relief, like Kelby was talking about. So we are looking at what do families need right now, and we're going to plug in and we're going to play in that playground with them, because we know big corporate America and big America government runs too slow for these families.
That's true.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Okay, so Kelby,
I hope I don't have somebody like knocking on my door like they heard me. They're like, "Well, we heard what you be like, yeah,
maybe they'll move a little faster.
Wow, aren't we still on a shutdown? Like, come on, guys, like get it together. Like, but that's the fun thing about being a not-for-profit, is really being able to see those gap areas and fill them, because it will take too long if you expect big pharma, big insurance, big government to step in and do it. It's just that process takes so much longer than the boots on the ground in the community. And most of them are your community nonprofit players that are the ones that are saying, hey, we're going to help these families because we see that there's a need, and whoever you're expecting to fill that need isn't doing it.
That's right.
Love that. Love that, Stephanie. So, Kelby, with the anticipated Medicaid and government funding cuts, can you explain how your organization can help bridge that gap?
Yeah, we, like I've mentioned before, we're scaling our partnerships with local therapy centers, local schools. We actually have started a partnership with our local schools within our support areas. And then just there's ABA clinics flooding in North Carolina because of the need and the funding available for them. And so they've been flooding in. And so they have a pipeline of communication that we aren't privy to, that I like to tap into just through networking with them, as well as schools. We were able to identify more families for our Angels for Autism program this year by contacting the schools and say, you see these children every day. Help me identify some families who are not going to get Christmas this year that desperately need it. How can we support them? And then we also are just trying to amplify our family stories, just these mission moments of if the community is not aware of the need and maybe there is funding available, but they don't know how to get that funding to the families. We like to put faces to the funding so that they understand where, like Stephanie was saying, when government can't support you, we have grassroots giving community-based programs that are be able to support them in that time, and just trying to stay present on our social medias as well, letting them know
Yeah.
we are here. We have various programs throughout the year that can help support them financially, and also just emotionally, community-wise, getting out there, rubbing elbows with some other moms that are in the thick of it and just get it and understand what you're going through. Those are things that government can't do, but we
Right.
can.
I love
Exactly.
that. I love
And
that.
that's why we're highlighting you.
Absolutely.
So.
That's about the community here. Nobody has to do this alone. And this is what is the most valuable information right here.
And need it.
Yes. So, Stephanie, how do you collaborate with autism support groups and advocacy organizations to reach families who are new to the journey and may not know that financial help is available?
Yeah. Okay. So great question. That therapy network, that the therapy partners that we really come alongside with is one of the ways. We have basically told them in very explicit in terms that please don't ever if somebody says they can't afford therapy with you, like, so the parents have gone through the diagnosis, they find the therapy center on their own, and they find out what it's going to cost them. Like, if they say they can't afford it, no, you say, I have the Autism Strong Foundation that you need to talk to, right? So
I
that's
love
why it's
that.
so important, because we know that the therapy centers are probably going to be a first introduction into that. We're also working very strategically with our diagnostic partners. So and the system. So we've got two major healthcare systems here in Charlotte that really are the big players. Making sure that they're aware of who we are and what we do, so that after diagnosis, we're a name that becomes familiar on their discharge
Mhm.
paperwork or on the diagnostic paperwork, so they can know that there is a financial support. And then more of a like just local grassroots way is we also, I'm extremely passionate about collaborating with other organizations that serve the same demographic as us. And so you'll see that we, and a lot of times, will partner with or sponsor other organizations that are supporting either autism specifically or the IDD community in general.
Yeah.
And that way they can be an extension of our word of mouth advertising. So a family may come through them, but realize that we're actually who they need. And they'll refer them over to us, but also vice versa. We've got this wonderful local network that if we have somebody that comes through us, but they're looking for something specific, that like job readiness training, we know where to send them.
Okay.
If they're wanting a summer camp experience, we know where to send them for that. If they're wanting adult socialization and support, we know where to send them for that. And it's through working that collaborative, like nonprofit partner community efforts, that we've been able to create that network and referral basis, that we all talk to each other. We help each other, and we make sure that the family's like, I don't care where you're getting your help from, as long as you're getting.
That's right.
It's not
Excellent.
about us. Like, it's about
Yeah.
that child, that family, what they need. And so I'm going to make sure that we provide you with the information, the resources, the tools, and the organizations that can supply you exactly what it is that your specific family and your specific child is needing.
Spot on. Okay. So, Kelby, for our call to action and for our listeners who want to help solve this financial crisis for the autism families, what is the most effective form of support, donations, volunteering, or advocacy, and why?
I personally believe they all have equal amount of efficacy in our community. Just to break those down, let's talk about donations. That's easily the quickest way that you're going to be able to directly fund and support families. It's immediate impact. We, just like Stephanie said, we can turn around support in 10 minutes for a family that needs it, as long as we have the funding there. So we're always trying to make sure that they have quick access. We have available donation link on our website at all times, and then any of our community outreaches are also, they're available to just, scan a quick QR code and be able to give that way, while also trying to let them know that we try to average a cost for something like an AAC device. What is the cost of that, so that they know that there's a measurable, identifiable object that that funding can be applicable towards. And then let's talk about volunteering. That is a free way to give your time, your love, your passion, and pour it back into the community that is needing it the most. And we have various things throughout the year. We're always looking for volunteers to help and come alongside us and support us. Some of our volunteers have become family and honorary team members because of how involved they are. But don't let that fool you. We are always needing more. So please get involved. If it's not with our foundation, just like Stephanie says, like, we are always trying to work with other foundations that need support. So get involved in your local community in some capacity. And then just advocating. That's something you can do in the grocery store. That's something you can do wearing our t-shirt, wearing the brand. Oh, what is autism? What is Autism Strong Foundation? And then it sparks a conversation. I call Stephanie the queen of swag. She loves to hand out our swag and our merch, and it has an impact in the community. I can't tell you how many times.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I can't tell you how many times I'm wearing an Autism Strong Foundation shirt and someone will identify me in the community, and it sparks a conversation. So I think
get it your shirts and we'll support
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely.
she's got the hookup. So yes.
I love it.
But my humble opinion is I think they're all equal. They all help in some way. We can't do one without the other. If we don't have advocacy, we don't have volunteer knowledge. If we don't have volunteer knowledge, we don't have funding knowledge. It just, I think they work hand in hand with each other.
Spot on.
I love that. So Stephanie, if you could secure unlimited funding for 1 year, what transformative project would Autism Strong implement to fundamentally change the financial landscape for autism families nationwide?
That's a good one.
I had unlimited funding.
Unlimited.
Okay, so dream
Comfortable.
world, and this is something that I've grown with the organization since day one over the last decade plus, and with Landon's journey specifically with our founders, and so I see that he is in what is considered a neurotypical senior year, but so he's going to be 18 in March. He does get the extended 4 years of supports through the specialized school. But the biggest thing that I see that is a gap and heartbreaking and terrifying need across the country is the ability for, once they age out of the system, we call it the cliff of resources. Okay. 21, 22, and you fall off the cliff. The resources are done. It's providing a day and residential program that allows for these individuals to thrive at whatever thriving looks like for them. The spectrum is wide. It is big. It is different for every single individual that lives on it and every single family. But the financial burden that these parents are going to face if they have to give lifetime care to an individual on the spectrum, and once they hit 21, there is nowhere for them to go or to do. How do they do that? If I had unlimited funding, there would be places that are amazing, uplifting, inviting, inclusive areas for these individuals to go and socialize, to do some type of a job, to be productive with their day. And it would be cared for by individuals who love serving them. And it gives the parents the much needed peace of mind and respite that they need when you're caring for an adult on the spectrum for the rest of their lives.
Excellent. I love that.
I'm so glad you touched on that. That is such an important topic that we're probably going to have to get you back to continue to discuss.
Yes, definitely.
I'll get really hot and heated about what I think needs to be happening.
Oh, that's what we need, though. We need that.
We need this kind of advocacy,
Yes,
and
we need that fire.
and that fire and passion, and from a grassroots perspective. And I'm telling you guys, this is not going to be our last discussion.
Yeah.
We're going to have you guys back and as often as we can, whatever we need to do to continue to put the word out and continue to support this community. We need to make people aware of what's really happening. And just because, you may not know someone with autism, you'd be surprised that you do,
Right.
So, that brings us to the end of a truly inspiring and hopeful episode. Thank you so much to Stephanie Neuman and Kelby Feenaughty from the Autism Strong Foundation for joining us. The commitment that you show to building this community and providing essential resources is truly changing lives. Thank you again for being with us on the Daily Balance podcast today and for giving us a window into your foundation. We are so grateful for the fine work that you both do.
Thank you guys so much.
No, thank you.
Thank you for platforming it. We really appreciate it.
And again, we're going to have you guys back at some point. It may be a month, it may be 2. It's the continual follow-up and the commitment to the community that we want to give our listeners and to those that you all too can promote via this platform. And we hope that this will be a resource for you guys to continue your fine work.
Absolutely. We would love that. We would love to come back and talk about our conference. We didn't even touch on that today. So our conference, our day, hopefully we're expanding that information and educational resource program for parents to be able to get all the information that they need. We've got lots of things that we do. It's so hard to jam it into one, but you got to stay focused. So I love that we can have a follow-up conversation.
Oh, we're going to have multiple. This is point.
Ladies, I hope that this will be a long-term relationship with you guys that will continue building. You've got Autism Mom, you have Autism Mimi here, and so much of what you've given us some help here today with the information that you've given us, and we're definitely going to jump on some of the things that you've mentioned. So thank you. Keep up the work, and I promise you, the blessings are going to keep coming in for you guys. You're changing lives, and we appreciate all the hard work you do, guys. And the conversation doesn't just stop here. For our dedicated supporters, stick around for our after show called Tea Time. We'll be continuing today's topic, answering your questions, diving deeper into personal stories with tantalizing details that relate to our topics, and just hanging out
with a cocktail. That's right. Tea Time is where we get to connect with our closest community. If you want to be a part of the inner circle and get instant access to the after show, subscribe and join our community, Tea Time, and go to our website at www.thedailybalancemedia.com and click on the Tea Time members only link.
Tune in again next week for another inspiring episode. And until then, always remember, count it all joy.
That's it right there.